Two cool bros tooting each other's horns. We the best!
That's all we spit. That's all we say. That's how we talk. That's the whole podcast. Just us doing ad-libs.
Young monies.
Alright, so for today, episode 1, welcome to our podcast, all of our amazing listeners that we don't have yet. And
Yes.
so episode 1, we are discussing and we have researched what do we think is Devin Booker's greatest weakness.
Yes, I think everyone's tuning in to find out what is Book's biggest weakness.
People want to know.
It's kind of like he's what weakness does he have? That's why they look to us.
Well,
as two people who are not athletic enough to be NBA players.
But athletic enough to be interested in sports.
Right. But we should be the ones who pass judgment on him.
Absolutely.
You know? It's our role as a teacher and whatever my job is. It's our job to pass judgment on him.
As two random dudes on the West Coast making a podcast and talking sports, it's our job.
I mean, I watch multiple basketball games per week.
At least, dude.
At least.
Sometimes per month.
The world needs to know my opinion. And we have a lot of opinions, don't we? We have some good opinions.
That is true. So, I definitely found some stuff where I think I found his greatest weaknesses. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start with one of mine?
I think you should start.
Okay, so this is his biggest weakness that I found. And granted, we know that we are nitpicking here, okay? I went through his shooting splits.
Absolutely.
And based on his shooting splits and his percentages, I believe that his greatest weakness is his 5 to 9 foot shooting range. I mean, it's very clear when you look at the stats that his percentages go way down. So just overall 2-point percentage, 50.3 from 0 to 3, basically layups and dunks, right? He's at 65%. Makes sense. In the 3 foot to 10 foot range, he's only shooting 44.6%. But then when he backs up to like free throw range, 10 to 16 feet, he shoots back up to 46.5%. And then long range twos and 3-point makes in total, he's at 42%. And 3-point makes, he's at 35.6% on the year. At least through 64 games. So it is a dip in that 3 to 10 foot range. And then when I analyzed it further, because NBA.com has different ranges, the first one I was using was Basketball Reference. The second one I was looking at was on NBA.com. They have less than 5 feet, 5 to 9 foot, and then 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, and then 25 to 29 feet. So they break it up like every 5 feet, right? His shooting splits there, less than 5 feet, 63%. 5 to 9 feet, 43%. And then it jumps back up, 10 to 14, he's at 45.6. 15 to 19 feet, he's at 49.8. 20 to 24 feet, he's at 46. And 25 to 29, he's at 35.8. But granted, that's 3-pointers and long-range bombs. So it is kind of interesting that he has this dip right in that like kind of middle paint area.
Yeah, where it's not necessarily a post-up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pure post-up, because I think Book posts up well against other guards.
I agree. I think so. I don't think that's his weakness. I would say, I guess if I were to pick a certain shot, I would say it seems like his floater game is weak.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that like around the rim, he's good and he's strong. But that middle spot, it kind of feels like that's where maybe he's floating too much. Not being strong enough, maybe. I mean, I'm interested in what you think on that.
Like I said, I think it's just he doesn't use the floater very often. Like he'll post up guards, he'll go to a fadeaway, or he'll go for a layup or a dunk. Like his finishing is great. I think it's kind of his like long distance finishing, the floater game, where he's weaker, right? So it's like I'm sure, and maybe this would be interesting to look at because I didn't think about this. I would be interested to know like what Trae Young's percentages in these same ranges would be, because I know that like he has a propensity to nail floaters. Like he has a really good floater game. So it'd be interesting to look at his percentages in these same ranges.
Yeah, that's that style of play where you almost wonder, is Book settling when he's in that range where he's floating away from the hoop versus someone like Trey's moving towards the hoop.
Well, here's something else that maybe I should add to this. This is the range of which he definitely takes the least amount of shots.
Okay.
Like he takes 3.4 shots less than 5 feet, only 2.1 shots in the 5 to 9 foot range, 3.7, 3.6, 2.7, and then he's taking almost 5 shots from 25 feet and beyond. So this is the range where he shoots the least amount in the game. And I don't necessarily think it's a great weakness, right? Because he's so good in all the other ranges. It's just kind of like this is the spot where he doesn't shoot a lot from.
It's hard to pick out a weakness of a guy who has developed his game so much. I mean, we're nitpicking a guy who he's developed his defensive game so much. Mm-hmm. His passing game is great. You know, his three-point shooting's great. His ability to work in offense and to cut is great. I mean, we're nitpicking. So, but I mean, the 5 to 9 foot range, that is the second easiest range. That is a spot you'd expect him to eat. I mean, a guy like Book should eat from 5 to 9 feet.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a concern that he's not efficient from there. So I can see that for sure.
Yeah. Did you want one, or do you want me to go through like my whole list, or should we alternate?
What do you think?
I have 4 that I wanted to talk about. How many did you have that you wanted to talk about?
Let's alternate them.
Okay.
Let's alternate. Well, my big issue with Book is that he does not get to the free throw line enough. And this is an interesting one in the sense of he tries. He appeals to the refs a lot for fouls. He tries to draw the fouls. He just can't. And his free throw rate this year is the lowest since his rookie year, as in free throws per field goal attempt. So, what do you make of that? I mean, to me, he's not getting to the line. Maybe that's shot selection. Maybe it's a bit of disrespect. The refs don't respect him.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I would go that far. I think you were more on point with shot selection, because when you look at his 3-point attempts this year compared to last year, his 3-point, he's taking 1.6 more 3-pointers per game this year. His 3-point attempts went up from 5.5 last year to 7.1. So that's what I noticed, and this is actually part of my second point. So I'm glad you brought this up. And looking at the shooting splits, this is super interesting. When we first started researching this, I went through on Basketball Reference and I did some calculations. So this year, through 61 games, he was averaging 1.95 fouls drawn, just like you're saying, which is way less compared to last year. He had drawn 2.09. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Last year he had drawn 2.88. The year before that, he had drawn 3.01 fouls per game.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
3 years ago, he had drawn 3.22. So it's been a steady decline for him, actually.
Is that per...
That's per
What's
game.
That per?
That's per game. So it went from like almost 3.25 to 3 to 2, 2.9 to this year, less than 2 fouls drawn per game. What's interesting that I found about this, though, I looked back at the numbers since it's been 6 more games since then, and his average per game has already jumped from 1.95 to 2.09, so almost 2.1. So he gained almost 0.2 fouls per game average on the year just in the last 6 games. So it's like he heard us, and he's been doing it.
I know. We're like, this is his only weakness, and then he immediately fixed it.
Immediately. Like that was the crazy part when I was looking up today. I was like, oh my God, he's actually gotten better at it since we even thought about this.
We're like trying to cherry pick something, and then he fixed it. But were some of those games without Chris Paul?
Yes, so that was including up until the game that Chris Paul came back.
Yeah, so without Chris Paul, he became point Book, which we love. Point Book, like he's great.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't agree with that statement either, because that's actually one of my other points. Because
go ahead.
He's still only averaging 4% of his minutes at the point guard, right? Because now we have Cam Payne, we have Peyton, we have Aaron Holiday.
But I think I would say point book more means ball dominant book.
Okay.
Not necessarily, because you think of someone like Kobe. Kobe wasn't playing point, but he was ball dominant.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think Book is that same style. Book, if needed, can be a dominant 2. But the thing with Book is like Book doesn't have to break the press. He doesn't have to bring it up court. But he'll initiate, the action runs through him when he's being point Book, which I know is a little misleading. But ball dominant Book, where the offense runs totally through him. So he might not break the press, he might not bring it up the court, but they're going to run every action through him, which is also not the best Suns. That's not what we want out of the Suns. You know, Book should not be initiating the offense. Chris Paul should be, of course. Because Chris Paul is way more, Chris Paul, he's the point god. He's
for a reason. He
knows how to initiate offense. He knows how to get people moving into the right spot at the right time. Booker is getting better, but he's not Chris Paul. Not even close.
Right.
No disrespect to Book, but he's not Chris Paul. You know, so point Book will never be Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a maestro. You watch Chris Paul run the offense, and every possession, the ball ends up in a good spot. It's always, all right, someone's going to come around a corner, catch it in rhythm. Someone's going to have a look near the rim. And Booker has gotten better at that, definitely. Compare Booker to 3 years ago. Current Booker's way better.
Oh, yeah.
And I also do think if Booker was forced to be point guard all the time, he could do it. But thankfully, with the Suns, he doesn't need to. He can be a true 2 guard. He can be a 2. And as a 2, Booker's basically the best 2 guard in the league, I think.
I ain't going to fight you on that.
Yeah.
Not right now. Not at the moment.
There's no mismatch.
Exactly.
There's not a mismatch. Yeah. It's
and
amazing. This
so that kind of brings me to my last point that I wanted to talk about with Booker, if you want me to lead into it.
I would like you to.
I said one of his biggest weaknesses is that he has not been completely taking over games himself. But I also countered my own point by saying the team is so good around him that he hasn't needed to, and they haven't needed him to. And why would he? Because we run such a balanced attack on the Suns.
But to go with what you're saying, offensively, he hasn't taken over,
right?
Kind of? Is that your point?
Yeah, like not as much as some other superstars in the past. Like other 2-guard superstars. I was looking at because now he's in his age 25 season, right? So I looked at his age, I looked at Kobe from the ages of 25 to 27, and I looked at Clay from the ages of 24 to 26, and both of them had much higher offensive win shares and value over replacement players of VORPs. But it's like, I don't know how much to attribute to those things. But it's just like, even by those counting stats and by the advanced metrics, those guys kind of took over games more. Think about that time when Clay, he scored 37 points in a quarter on like one dribble. Like, it was...
Yes.
So, yes. That's the sort of thing that I was talking about, where it's like, we haven't seen Booker truly explode in games where it's just like, yo, everyone get out of his way. He cannot be stopped. Like he does a lot of really good work within the confines of the offense and within the confines of his team. So, I don't know how much of a weakness that is, because their team is so freaking good that how can you blame them for that, right? And here's some interesting stuff I found too, that kind of countered my own point just in recent years. I looked up how many 40-point games Booker has had over his career, right? So his rookie year, he only had 1. Okay. Sophomore year, he had 3 40-point games. His third year, he had 5. And then he had 3 in the bubble year. And then last year he only had 2 40-point games, and this year even so far he had 3. And I think he had another one after this just 2 nights ago. So I think he's at 4 this year.
Okay.
So then I pulled up, okay, who would probably have a lot of 40-point games in the last few seasons too? I looked at LeBron James over the last 5 years. LeBron James, 2, 4, 3, 1, 1, 3. So Booker's beating LeBron in 40-point games over the last few years, yeah. And Kevin Durant was another one I looked at. Kevin Durant the last 5 years, 1, 4, 4, 3, 3. Booker is right on pace with those guys. So maybe I'm completely wrong.
Well, in the sense of like Booker, I think Book has always been able to be a volume scorer. We all remember when he put up 70 against Boston.
Yes.
But he's developed so much since then.
Yeah, in that game,
no longer
like looking back on that game from a retrospective point, it's like, dude, the Celtics didn't care. They were going into like playoff seeding games. We were awful.
Well, and honestly, the Suns, like, we can admit that was kind of bullshit. How the Suns intentionally fouled to get more possessions. Do you remember that?
Yes. That's what I was going to get.
That was kind of garbage.
Yeah, it's like, he scored 70, but meh.
It's kind of a cringe.
Yeah, it was definitely like the emptiest 70 one could have.
My last issue with Book is handling double teams. I don't think he handles double teams very well. Like he lets the double team press him too much. He doesn't pass quickly out of a double team. So he ends up in a bad situation, and there's been times, especially when Chris Paul's out, where Book is playing as the main ball handler, and he gets pressed into... They press him, and then he just makes bad decisions. And look, we love Book, but he doesn't pass soon enough out of the double. Especially when you're surrounded by great players. He's surrounded by 4 playmakers at all times. So he doesn't pass out of the double. Is my Book issue.
I agree, and that's why I talked earlier about him not being a true point guard. Like, I feel like he doesn't have that floor general sense yet, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Like, he doesn't... A good point would read it and do the simple pass. Move it, and then they could pass out of it, and then you get a layup. But he doesn't. He kind of dribbles himself into a corner. He gets himself trapped, and then he tries to throw out of it, but it's too late.
Yeah.
You know? And he's way too talented and way too smart to be in that spot.
I agree with that.
Again, we're totally nitpicking. He's not going to go down and impose his will every possession.
That's his greatest weakness. I think we just found it out. He's not 7 foot, and he's not 300 pounds. That's his biggest weakness.
Yeah, he's
Get in the gym, Book. Get in the freaking gym.
That's his biggest weakness.
So I think we dove into Book quite a bit in this episode. And I want to ask, do you think we're ready to move on to the next part?
I think we are.
All right. So the other part that we're going to have in every episode is kind of just a fun question that we want to answer. And today's question is, what is one invention that you would create for yourself if possible? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. I like this one. I think, I'm not going to go crazy and invent like a time machine. I think that's kind of cheating. I think that's not really the idea.
I will withhold my answer then.
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe you can go back in time and like solve shit. But I'm looking more at it from a selfish viewpoint. If my invention is I want like a helmet that I can put on my head that will do my nighttime routine for me. Floss, brush, and rinse my teeth and wash my face. Because at the end of the night, I'm so tired. I'm so goddamn tired. I can't do it. So like I want something I could just pop on my head. And then all of a sudden I'd feel better.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Because I'm tired as fuck. I mean, I can't do it. It's like I'm exhausted, so I just want something I can pop on my head like a football helmet. Like maybe put a chin strap on, maybe, and then good. That's all I'm asking. It's not too much.
That's it. It's simple, scientists. Freaking Musk just invented already.
Come on,
nerds.
Yeah, I'm not asking to like invent a time machine or to fly me through space. I'm just saying like floss and brush my teeth and wash my face with a helmet. That's all I'm asking. Like, because if I could do that in bed,
just laying down already, and then like something comes out of the ceiling, attaches to your face, like does it, and then just like scoots back up all the way into the ceiling.
Yes. Oh, see, we're on the same wavelength.
Dude, that'd be dope. That's a great idea.
I don't want to have to get out of bed. I want to just maybe I could lean forward a little bit, like not much though. I don't want to lean forward much.
Yeah, look, don't make me like bend my neck and shit. That's way too much.
Because then I might as well get out of bed. I'm saying like maybe I could just go, and then the helmet drops on, and then takes care of all of it. And I won't lie, possibly it could be like a lower body part. I could go to the bathroom too. Because I do like to pee when I do the rest of the stuff.
Scott just wants a Matrix pod. He just wants
I just want to live it. Yeah. And maybe that could just be my whole life. Maybe my whole life could be. I'm not against that. Like, why do I even need to live day to
just
day?
hook me up. I don't give a shit. Just hook me up. I don't want to do anything.
Plug into my back. Plug into my spine. And then I'm just like, I don't know shit. Baby, I'm just saying I'm open to it. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing to ever happen. What about you? I'm hooked up to a electric pod. Mm-hmm. What are you hooked up to?
Mine was actually kind of similar, so I was worried that you were going to say the same exact thing as me. But I said that I would love it if I got like a video game controller that I could control with my mind instead of my stupid, faulty fingers. Okay. Like, I don't mean like VR or metaverse where I'm like totally, ingrained or immersed in it like that. I just mean like a regular controller, right? But instead of me pushing buttons, I can just control it with my mind because like misclicks make me super frustrated at myself.
I like that idea.
And because like I still want to be able to like break away from it, and I like the idea of me controlling something. Like I don't want it to do everything for me, but I just wish it was like more perfect to what I wanted to do instead of when I up with my fingers.
Have you seen the movie Click?
That's the one with Adam Sandler, right? In the remote.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Super fucking sad, by the way.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that movie is sad as hell.
So you don't want to give up control to the whole thing. By the way, that movie's sad as
Yeah, yes it is.
Real talk. That is like one of the saddest movies I've ever seen.
It gives you a lot of perspective. Yes. Which actually I had a second idea that relates very heavily to Click.
Okay, let's hear it then.
So my second idea was not a classic time machine like you were talking about, because I thought that's stupid, that's cheating. All I would like would be like a pause button that I could use sometimes.
Okay, so you could like pause and then like you could work on.
Yes, yeah, like a pause button where I could, because I understand the pitfalls of trying to relive things or trying to fast forward through time. I don't want any of that. I know that I want to live my life, but I would like a time stop button. Because I feel like, one thing I've learned as we get older is like, dude, stuff just happens so fast and it's so fleeting, right? When you're young, you think everything's going to be forever and like it's going to be more tangible or whatever, but it's like, oh my gosh, it goes by fast.
Oh, here you go, brother. In that time stop, would you age or would you stop aging?
That's a good question. I didn't think that far. Would I still want it if I aged?
That's a huge difference, isn't it?
I think if I still aged while I stopped time, I would not want it. I would want the ability to like just stop time and not age myself.
If you didn't age, you'd want it, of course, because we could study the stuff. We could learn.
Yeah, I was thinking way more sappy stuff. I was thinking like pausing it when my son does something awesome, and I just want to like savor that moment.
But who would you savor it with? You'd be paused on.
Dude, that would be another downfall of this machine, right? If no one else could savor it with me, would I ever use it?
Yeah,
That's a great point.
Is a moment enjoyed alone even a moment enjoyed? You know, it's
think,
about people around you. You know, like because definitely an interesting idea, but damn, if you don't have anyone to enjoy it with,
right?
Who do you even talk to about it? And you stop to savor it, but you savor it with who?
It's a fantastic point, and that's why it was my second idea, and I agree it was dumb as and I shouldn't have thought of that.
Well, but if you could do that, if you could do it where you don't age, but you could gain skills and or muscle, like anime, isn't there some anime you can do that?
Dude, I have no idea. I'm so out of the loop on animes. But I'm sure. I mean, it sounds like it. Like, yeah, totally, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a time capsule type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be down for that.
I don't like to toot my own horn, but
cut that.